Everybody welcome. And today is one of our series of just some professional development opportunities where we've taken here to share some information here. I think, as we mentioned in some of our other presentations, one of the positives, if there's any here from our COVID time, is all of our abilities to work remotely. And I think one of the big things here of us moving forward, especially from a CIF office perspective, is our ability to provide meaningful feedback, meaningful professional development, opportunities to have some open office hours and share information with you, and just be a useful resource for you without having to have in-person meetings. I think this new kind of virtual world we're operating in has given us the benefit of doing that. And with that, our training today is our new athletic director and new administrator training. And I know from looking at many of you that have signed up, we have a great mix of new athletic directors, new principals. I know we have on there. We have new athletic administrators, but we still have some veterans that are on here. So we appreciate you coming on. Today's training is going to be a little bit different than our eligibility training. We're going to have just kind of a few pieces with regards to eligibility, navigating our website, and some little bits and pieces of CIF Home that some of our staff's going to put together for you all. But again, a majority of it is going to be some great presentations we have from a couple of our most experienced athletic directors in our section. We're very lucky to have them kind of giving some real life perspective to the position and kind of the importance of what we do. And it kind of plays into that, the why of we put all this time and effort into our athletic programs and doing it for the reason at the end of the day of spreading the word and positive lifelong lessons we get from education-based athletics. That's why we do it. So again, welcome. I'm going to work through a couple of these slides here, and then we're going to turn it over to a couple of our resident experts here. So next slide, if you would, Ron. The philosophy of CIF, this is not just CIF San Diego section, but is the entire state of California CIF. I'm just going to read it to you briefly. The CIF, as a governing body of high school athletics, affirms that athletic competition is an important part of the high school experience and that participation in interscholastic athletics is a privilege. Sometimes folks forget that, but it is absolutely a privilege. The privilege of participation in interscholastic athletics is available to students in public or private schools who meet the democratically established standards of qualifications set forth by our Federated Council, which is our state governing body for state CIF. So that's the philosophy of our CIF section here in the state of California and here in San Diego. Next slide, Ron. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, obviously, first I'm going to do our welcome and introductions. I'm going to introduce our team, our guest speakers tonight. We're going to talk about building your team. We're going to talk about our CIF home and website resources from our staff to do a little training there. We have two athletic directors. Again, we have Ms. Peggy Brose, athletic director from Rancho Bernardo High School. We'll be talking about 5 keys to building a successful athletic program. And we have Mr. Damon Chase, athletic director from Helix Charter High School. We'll be talking about his school's journey and kind of the role of an athletic director, athletic administrator in today's world. And then we'll wrap up our presentation and be able to take any questions as we move along. Next slide, Ron. First, I'd like to introduce our San Diego CIF section staff. Many of you who are experienced administrators or athletic directors that have been around know our team. These are the 3 consistent pieces to the new CIF San Diego section. That's Ms. Stacy Candia, our executive administrative assistant. Mr. Ron Marquez, who I appreciate is our person on our technology today, helping us through this presentation, and will be doing some work with CIF Home and our website. So thank you, Ron Marquez, our operations and event coordinator. We have Ms. Vanessa Myers, who's continuing on as our operations and events coordinator. All of you know Vanessa. She plays an integral role as well as what we do here in the San Diego CIF section office. And then you have the 2 guys here that don't have glamour shots like they do, that just have regular pictures, and that's Mr. Todd Casson, our assistant commissioner, who you'll hear from shortly, and then myself, Mr. Joe Hines, the new San Diego section commissioner. First and foremost, talking about today, it's important for us to give a thank you to all of you. Obviously, our communities are in need of leaders who are willing to step in and develop their athletic programs and opportunities for all of our student athletes. It's big. For those of you that are athletic directors, you know that more than 50% of our athletic directors currently in their jobs have been in from 1 to 5 years. Just more of a recent trend, we've had a huge turnover in the amount of athletic directors, and throughout, it's not just throughout the San Diego section, that's throughout the state and throughout the country. So it's big. It's a challenging job. There's a lot more responsibility than there used to be. The job's ever changing, and it's just a lot of work, and it takes a lot of responsibility to run a quality athletic program. And part of our goal is to help sure to, again, you make sure you have the tools to do that. Obviously, our coaches, challenges with being coaches. It's, more than 70% of our coaching staff is made up of walk-on coaches these days. The days of the educators who go to school, come back, and want to be teacher coaches, those days are long gone. We're faced with the challenges of working in our districts and in our schools with a lot of folks that come from the outside club and travel world, which obviously bring a great bunch of skill sets and a great bunch of knowledge, but also maybe don't quite understand the whole goals and guidance and vision of education-based athletics. So lots of work to do with us of training our coaches, and obviously for all of our administrators here today. For those principals, they're being pulled in more directions than ever with their responsibilities of being an educational leader. And doing that, being knowledgeable and have an understanding of athletics and ensuring that plays a pivotal part of the whole entire culture and educational experience for your kids at their school is huge. So thank you all for taking the time to do what you do and play a critical role in the lifelong development of these students. So here on the right side, you see that's our clientele. That's our key stakeholders, our student athletes. We know they come with more challenges than ever. We get them, and we have to obviously set the expectations and parameters of what our athletic program looks like and how it functions. And that's basically all of our roles as educational administrators, is to develop and establish that athletic culture at our school. We talked about coaches. Coaches are turning over now more so than ever. If you're a principal or you're an athletic director or an assistant principal in charge of athletics, these days with 70% of your coaching staff made up of walk-on coaches, that's almost like you have a whole different teaching staff that just comes in after school to work with your kids. So, lots of times principals will walk right past coaches and they may not even know who they are. Those times have changed. So again, we've got to be able to make those connections and get those coaches to buy in the vision for all of our athletic programs at each of our schools. And obviously, we know the parents and community. They're the key. They are more active than ever. It's a whole different world than it was for many of us when we were student athletes. But all three of those pieces play a key role in the culture and development of our athletic programs. And we have to be cognizant of all three of them and how they're interrelated and function together. Next slide, please, Ron. Okay. Taking the team approach. Todd, I think I'm going to turn this one over to you. This is your slide, Todd, correct?
Thanks, Joe, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time to spend a little, hopefully, learning time with us, and hopefully you'll walk away from here thinking, here's some steps I can take that are really going to improve my athletic program, and steps I can take to really get that plan in place. And definitely want to thank two of our athletic leaders for stepping up and joining us today, and that's the fabulous Miss Peggy Brose from Rancho Bernardo High School, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes, and also Mr. Damon Chase for Helix Charter High School, for two leaders in our section, and I think they really have some valuable insight for you today. Also want to thank the new athletic director at Bishop's High School for joining us today, Mr. Jerry Schneep. So Jerry, thanks for joining us today, and a real shout out. Thank you for all you've done for the section. So really appreciate it. But
thank you.
I want to take everybody back here for a second, and I want you to think about when you got the phone call or you were in the meeting that said, I want you to be the athletic director for our school. I want you to be the principal for our school, or I want you to be the athletic director, the athletic administrator for our school. I bet you your first thought was one of extreme excitement. You were excited to get this new opportunity. And I bet your second thought was, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get started. And then a few days later, I bet you a little bit of doubt began to sneak in. A little gulp in the throat, starting to wonder, oh no, what did I get myself into? Do I have what it takes to oversee this position? And I want you to know it's something that oh no moment is something happens in leadership all the time, because it's impossible to know it all. It's impossible to have everything in place that you want to, especially at the beginning. And, I remember reading a book by Steve Farber about the radical leap and understanding, oh yeah, I remember that feeling well, and trying to figure out, okay, what is my first step? And the first thing I highly recommend you do is find a mentor. There are plenty of them throughout this section, plenty of mentors in your current position that can help you get a better understanding of all the things that you might be dealing with. And they're also going to help you understand things that you haven't thought of. And these mentors are somebody that are going to help you all the way through your career. And one of the key parts I would, when you're looking for a mentor, look for someone that you can be completely 100% honest with. Somebody that you can share exactly where you're at and what you're feeling. And those mentors are able to really have probably been in that same situation that you're facing at that time and can really help you. You know, I've been in leadership or educational leadership for over 20 years now. And I can tell you, I still reach out to those people that I consider mentors. Some of them have retired, and I don't hesitate to break up their enjoyable retirement to see if they can help me with situation. So there's something that'll be with you as you go through the entire time. The second step, you really want to look at starting to develop your team. What does your site-based team look like? And I'm talking everybody from your principal all the way to your student athletic leaders. You have people in your office staff. You have that administrator who oversees athletics. Everybody there is going to become part of your team. And it's something that you can start to learn and lean on those around you, because your teammates can bring something in that maybe they're already doing that can support your athletic leadership. You know, you have people that might be already checking grades. You have people that look with student discipline. You have people that have been trained in running investigations. So you really want to look and bring that team together and really understand the roles that they have. And step 3 is you really can't go anywhere until you have a plan. So you find a mentor, you really develop your site team, but then you really want to get a plan. What's your initial plan that you're going to put in place? And to be honest with you, I look back at my first plans, they weren't perfect, but they were something that I could grow on. And when we look about plan, implement, review, and improve, you have to think about what is the data that you're going to look at as a site team that's really going to drive your athletic program. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a lot more than when you look at wins and losses. Next slide, Ron. So once you have your plan in place, you want to go through and determine the roles and responsibilities for all the members of your team. Remember that it's impossible. We keep saying that it's impossible to do it all. But when you look at the roles and responsibility of everybody who makes up the team, you can start to put that together and put your plan into action. You also want to make sure that you're setting limits and expectations for everyone on the team on how they will address issues with the team. You want to do business items like schedules and student athlete clearance. How are people going to work with and treat student athletes? What's the expectation for that? And how about communication with all stakeholders? One of my mentors once reminded me that being clear is being kind. And if you haven't addressed it, you can't truly expect it to take place the way that you want to. And that's one of the things you look at from the beginning of an athletic season all the way through the end. Have you addressed all the possible issues that come up? And lastly, you know, if there is an issue, making sure that that's communicated to you. One of the things I've let people know when I was a principal or even when I was an athletic director is I don't want to be getting a phone call of an issue that I know nothing about, that I want to make sure that those are communicated through. So if there was an issue at a game, those coaches should know that they should be contacting their athletic director, and the athletic directors so on to their principal, so that chain of command is in there, and also the information that needs to get from what happened to the leadership can also be addressed. I'm going to turn it over now to, first of all, let's check and see if we have any questions at this point. If you haven't and you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and we can also answer those as we go along. Any questions, Ron?
No, just we'll share the presentation, you know, on our website, or send that out to everybody that's in attendance, and send the link out to you so you can go back and review this. And we're recording this as well, so at some point we'll put this up as well. So in case you want to go back and look at any topics that we covered throughout this presentation.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Ron, and he's going to show you some resources that are currently on our CIF website.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everybody, for being here and taking the time. And it's good to see everybody, albeit in 2D. I'd rather see it be in 3D. But yeah, the resources, and this is an important time, especially with things being so dynamic, so fluid, that, you know, where is the information coming from? Where do you get it? So Joe, Todd, myself, and everybody we work with, our conference presidents, all the way down to our ADs and coaches, we're going to rely on our website and a lot of the information posted, so you can do your jobs and get your students back out there safely and active. The key piece is going to be our CIF website. You see here at CIFSDS, .org. The home is the home piece, which I'm going to cover as well. The most important piece for a lot of you that you're going to see, we've actually revamped our eligibility site, just the eligibility tab on our website. And Joe and Todd have done a lot of work in getting this updated and for 2021 in terms of eligibility, in terms of COVID, any updates there. This is a key piece for a lot of our athletic directors now that we put up there and kind of cleaned up and streamlined it as well. So most of all your information should be there in terms of eligibility and anything else. If you go to our homepage, we have more of a news feed now. So if there's Joe and Todd put out commissioners newsletters, those are posted right on the front right away. And then right below it too are archives as far as any past press releases or anything like that is posted as well. So please, please, please use our website as a key piece of source of information for all of you moving forward as we kind of navigate through and with updated information from the state and communicate it all to you. So please use that. And again, we're always available versus, via email and everything, and our phone number is still current, albeit we're working remotely, but you still get a hold of us. So reaching us, especially this time, is key. So make sure you do reach out to us if you do have any questions. So using our website is your initial good resource. And our green book is still there. All the information, we're going to revamp our sports in terms of season 1 and season 2 for this year. So you'll see how it's organized there. Our master calendar, play dates, things like that will be posted there as well. So it's a great source of information for all of you with the information as it comes out.
Ron, could I add one thing to that eligibility page there, Ron, if you go back one?
Sure.
Just for all you ADs, many of you that are even veteran ADs and new ADs, with this eligibility page, we streamline everything. And if you scroll down to the bottom of this eligibility page where it's at, it'll have links to all the necessary forms that you may need instead of going to different tabs throughout our website. Once you click on eligibility and scroll down to the bottom of this page, you'll see potentially every single eligibility link you may need. So again, as Ron said, we appreciate the work that he and Vanessa have done on getting this page updated and make it more user-friendly. But again, that will save you time from having to move around through different tabs and navigate on our website. As soon as you click on that page, all that information will be there. So just wanted to make sure all of you knew that in case you found it different places where you might have thought a tab may have been previously, that can all be found on that eligibility page. And yeah, thank you, Ron, for doing that. As you scroll down, you will see parent handbooks, eligibility guides, and every eligibility form you would need are all linked right there at the bottom of that page for you. So thank you for doing that, Ron. I appreciate that. I want to make sure everyone knows.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, back to the presentation here. All right, the other piece, which we did do a CIF home training for a lot of our new ADs and some financial techs and then other administrative staff as well. I'm not going to do that same presentation, but kind of touch base on that as well. But for our new ADs, going through CIF Home is our portal, is our administrative portal where we do a lot of your transfers are processed, finances for your dues, tournament sanctions, which are a big thing right now, along with the transfers as we move through this year. This is the source where you put those through as ADs. I know, and just as an update, we still do receive a handful of paper sanctions, tournament sanctions, which are back from 2007, I think is the date on them. But just so you know, for your coaches and for you, tournament sanctions for your events this year do go through this portal. If you could please use the system, because it'll notify Joe and Todd and myself that they're in there, as well as your transfers. So please, if you have any questions there, reach out to myself or Todd or Joe, and we'll help you and guide you through with CIF Home. But just kind of a general overview of this portal as well. And one thing I'll cover for all of you specifically is talking about the dues and everything as well. But yeah, accessing Home Campus, which is your portal for your particular site, where your coaches enter your rosters, teams, schedules, things of that sort for all your sports on your campus. This is where you can access Home Campus. And this is primarily for your site, for your school, your portal, in terms of your athletic program, for your information. You can access it through CIF Home and go through there. School directory is also important too. Almost, I think all of you have done the splash, which is great, and that has updated your information for 2021. So it's a great resource to reach out to other athletic directors. If you're not sure who's at what site, you can click on the school directory there, type in the school name or the first couple letters. You can look up the staff information there, ADs, financial contacts, coaches, principals, assistant principals, things of that sort. This is a great resource initially to reach out and talk to other schools in case you need to discuss transfers or anything like that as that becomes available. This is another key piece that a lot of you are very active now that the season 1 and 2 have been set. Tournament sanctions, this is where you submit them through our CIF Home, and you would just click on the sanction event form, and we are going through and doing that and processing them as they become available. And doing that. And there are due dates, I believe. Todd, remind me of it's November 1st, I believe, for season 1.
November 1 for season 1 and January 10 for season 2.
Thank you. Thank you. So those are your 2 deadlines to get those in. And this is important, everybody, especially this year with the change in seasons and everything. Sanctions need to be approved because we are working with officials associations to make sure that they can staff your events. And the officials associations have been told to look at our website and see to make sure that these events have been sanctioned so they can go ahead and staff them. If they don't appear on our list, then they will not be staffed. They won't be made a priority. So please go through that process because we're vetting to make sure that events you're not all playing on one weekend and they are spread out through your particular seasons. So this provides us with a kind of a portal to see to make sure that events are spread out evenly through as far as dates and sites and things of that sort for our officials association. So this is a good resource and a key resource for us as we move forward for this year. So when you do that, and it notifies the other thing as well, it notifies myself and Joe and Todd that they've been into the system so we can go ahead and process those too. And with that process, when we are notified, turnaround time is usually 24 to 48 hours where you'll receive a notification that we received it. You'll get an invoice saying that it's been set. And then once the payments are received, we process them and assign a sanction number and put on the website for officials associations to double check, and you'll get a notification as well. So that's been the process, and I appreciate, thank you to a lot of you that have done this already and have processed them. So thank you on that. Finances, this has been another key one too. I want to clarify, and again, thank you to a lot of our schools. I think we're about 70% of our schools that have paid their dues. The portal through here where you've done it, but just kind of, again, to clarify, all the schools have been sent invoices for their sports dues, whether it's for their per student administrative fee or their 2021 sports dues. Those are sent to you in an email, but this is where I take a look. Based on your splash, I went through and made sure everything was billed based on the sports that you're fielding for this particular year. This is how your dues were built. We used to use this system a few years back, but we are using QuickBooks and using the email system to notify you because it's a better communication tool because it does go out to your listed financial techs in CIF Home as well as yourself who receives the notification as athletic directors. So just so you know that, again, when I receive the payments, I do check them off in here so they do show up as paid when they do come through. But again, when it comes to those finances, I do those directly through QuickBooks. So you'll get an email specifically from me about that. And when the time comes, I'm looking forward to it when we have our playoffs. And we'll do a separate training for this, similar to what we're doing today, in terms of filling out your playoff finances in CIF Home when it comes to football, basketball, volleyball. This is the portal where those, your athletic directors or ASB or whomever's in charge of that, this is where you will reconcile your CIF playoff games in this system. And I'll, again, cover that at a later date as we get close to that and start hosting those playoff games. But this would be the portal that you would do it in. All right, and here's an example. Emails for anything financial from CIF would come through in an email like this from me. It'll be an invoice. It'll have a number on it. It'll describe what it's about. So this is primarily how you will receive your invoices from our office. I know before it used to be through Home, but I just want to give you a kind of a picture of what it looks like moving forward so you understand this is true and this is what's coming through. And again, I'm your contact and my number's there as far as email in case any questions come up regarding these. All right. Any other questions at this point before I turn it over to our next guest? In the chat, I don't see anything. Other than that, Todd or Joe, I think I'm turning it over to you to present our next presenter.
Gotcha. I would love to be able to introduce our next presenter. If you go back to what I was talking about, and my first step was to find a mentor, and this person was a mentor to me when I became an athletic director and and opening up Westview High School. And as you can see, she's a coaching legend in the sport of basketball. Has been at Rancho Bernardo in the athletic director, I'm guessing since 2000. Rancho Bernardo High School, one of the top high school athletics program rated in the state. So it is my pleasure to turn it over to Miss Peggy Brooks.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with us today. This is a extremely challenging, time-consuming, and at times frustrating job being an athletic director, but it's also very enjoyable and very, very rewarding situation to have. So Todd asked me to kind of talk about what the 5 keys are. And first and foremost, I believe is communication. And I've listed over there the who, the what, and the how. There are many, many stakeholders, and you need to make sure that all these groups are communicated with at one time or another. Obviously, you have your administration, your principal, being number one, but most all of us have athletic administrators that oversee athletics before it gets to the principal as well. So make sure you know who that person is and communicate well with them. Your coaches, your parents, your athletes, your teachers. Sometimes I think we forget teachers, but teachers come into play if there's a release time for your athletes, or if there's a change in a schedule or a bus time change or things like that. Your support staff, your custodial crew, your grounds crew, your athletic trainers. Sometimes when a game is changed, I know this has happened to me on more than one occasion, I let everybody know except my athletic trainer, and Robbie usually lets me know that I've stuffed up on that one. And don't forget the media, and the media can be good and bad. If you have a athlete you want to highlight, if you've got something really great that's happened at your school, share it, promote your program. The what, and I'm not even sure I listed everything right here, but you need to make sure your expectations are very clear, the philosophy of your own individual athletic program, as well as the fact that our CIF is an education-based athletic program. Your rules, your policies, schedules, upcoming events, game results, awards, college signings, good things that have happened within your program. Anything that you can think of that you need to share with any or all of your stakeholders, the who up above, I think is really, really key. And then the how, there's so many different ways that we can communicate these days. I find that for my individual coaches, most of the time it's email. For parent information, a lot of it is our website. We have a moms and dads Facebook page here at RB High, so we communicate a lot of things through them. We have a newsletter that comes out. We have a weekly information sheet that just highlights, for example, we have some athletic paperwork we're collecting the next couple of days, so that's there. Parent information nights. We do host a parent information night for each of our seasons of sport. And we have some parents that need to come that usually don't, and parents that don't need to come usually do. But this is a good way to share your expectations. Our principal has always attended those and speaks to the parents as well. And then they go into individual breakout rooms. So that's a great way of communicating. And the one other thing that my athletic admin team does is every season of sport, we go to each individual program and get all the athletes from that program, all the levels, and we do about a 15-minute team talk with that particular program. We kind of refer to it in some regards as our dog and pony show, and we each have a role, we each have something we talk about, but it gives us another opportunity to connect with our student athletes and make sure that they know and understand the expectations of our athletic department. One thing that I always try and stress to my coaches is the fact that you cannot over communicate. No matter how many things you try to do, you're still going to have that parent that's going to say, well, I didn't know. So, be creative, think about all the various ways, but remember in your communication that it needs to be done in an appropriate manner. You want to make sure that you don't communicate misinformation or communicate in a manner that is going to be inappropriate. Maybe firing off a disrespectful email when you're upset or angry, or something like that. Over the course of my 19 years as an athletic director, I have found that 80% of the issues that arise are typically a result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication. So I stress to you the importance of communication. Next slide, please, Ron. The next thing for me is visibility. I think it's very, very important that we be out and we be visible, and parents and community members and our athletes and our coaches know who we are and that we care about all of them. So you're at athletic events, you're at community events that your athletes are at, you're attending practices. A lot more sometimes can be gained from going to a practice just for 15 or 20 minutes than it can by watching an athletic contest. And again, it's very important that all programs see you, not just football, not just basketball, not just baseball, not just, girls volleyball, if that's a really big program, but you need to make an effort to get out to field hockey. You need to make an effort to get out and see the tennis team or the golf team or the water polo team or whomever it is. If you have a chance to watch lower levels, that's even better too, because these are your future. These are your future varsity athletes, and they need to know who you are and, again, what you represent, and that the fact that you care about them. I think another key for me is we are asked to evaluate our coaches and evaluate our programs. And if we never get to see them, if we never go out and spend any time watching and observing, how can we properly evaluate? And from personal experience, when I was coaching, I had an athletic director who used to give me these glowing evaluations at the end of the season. And I always asked myself, how on earth does this individual know that? I've never seen him at a practice, and I've never seen him at one of my games. And so if you're going to be an evaluative process with your coaches, then you need to have a reference point. You need to be able to say to them, hey, I've seen you do this, compliment them on this. Maybe we need to try to improve in this. And they need to know that you've been out there and watched them. It validates, in their eyes, their evaluation. The other piece of credibility is it's credibility in the eyes of the parents. Many times there's been an issue that's arisen, and a parent has been sitting in here and they've said, well, at this particular game or this particular event, I noticed that the coach was really getting upset and was really yelling at the kids, and I didn't think this was appropriate. And it always helps when you can say, I've been out there, I've observed that as well. The coach and I are working on that. This is one of the goals moving forward for him or her. And the parents kind of go, oh, okay, she gets it or he gets it. And they're working to help make it a best possible experience for our student athletes. So I think those things it's real important. The next one that's real important for me is transparency. I very much have an open door policy. You almost will never see my door closed. And if it's closed, it's because I'm doing an evaluation, or I'm on a Zoom call, or I've got an important phone call, or something like that. So your coaches need to know that you value their input. You want to hear to them. They're going to stop by and say, hey, do you have a minute? And it's always going to be more than a minute, but it's okay to say, yeah, sure, come on in, let's talk. What's on your mind? What's going on? What do I need to know? Todd mentioned earlier the importance of having a mentor. For me, what's important to get the information from all my coaches, but to have a support group, to have a group of coaches, be assistant coaches or head coaches or individuals that you're close to, you've known a long time, that you can bounce ideas off of. It's fine to go home and maybe bounce them off your husband or your wife or your significant other, but those people don't walk in your shoes, and coaches do. And I'm very fortunate that I have a group of people, and they'll be honest with me. And as he said, you want somebody who's going to tell you, you really kind of screwed that one up. You made a poor decision, or you should have gotten some input, because we need to hear that. We need to know. We need to improve ourselves. I firmly believe in shared decision-making whenever it's possible. I'm not a dictator. I want my coaches to have buy-in to the decisions that I make. So where possible, now sometimes, you've got to make the call, but if we can get together and decide what's going to be best for our athletic program, then I think that's really key. When it comes to finances and budget issues, I think it's important for the coaches to know the whys. Every year when we have our head coaches meeting, I give them a sample of our budget. I give them their tournament entry fee budget. I let them know what programs are getting how many stipends, depending on how I want to split it up. And I give my reasons why. You know, maybe one program has 3 times as many kids, so maybe they get an extra coach versus another program. But when coaches know the whys, then I think it's easier for them to accept. They might not like your decisions from a financial or a budget standpoint, but it's easier for them to understand. And that bottom one, I think, ties in with the transparency and the visibility and the communication. Coaches need to feel valued and respected. They need to feel like you trust them, and they need to know that, or you need to know that they're going to trust you. And I think that those 3 things are really key to developing that. Okay, Ron. The 4th one for me is equity and unity. And one of the things that I think it's absolutely crucial, yes, football is the cash cow. Yes, basketball and wrestling bring in revenue as well. But this is an athletic program. We offer 29 sports at Rancho Bernardo High School, and no one team is any more important than the other. Budgetary issues are based on need, not so much on football gets 2/3 of the budget and everybody else has to split the last third. So that to me, again, decisions are going to be made looking at the big picture and what's good for all of our athletes and all of our programs. I think the next bullet kind of goes unspoken, or should be. It has to be an equal opportunity for everybody. And there can't be any regard to race, gender, ethnicity within any of the aspects of your program. The 2 big things that come to mind to me in this respect, to some degree, is that of facilities. I know for many schools, there's been an issue in a program with who gets priority, field hockey or football, and on the turf field. And football's always, in many instances, the one that has first priority. Well, here that doesn't happen. I mean, you're going to see our football team coming out after our field hockey team sometimes. And there again, that goes back to it's one program, everybody's important, and it's very, very critical that all your sports teams feel that they have equal opportunity. Practice times between male and female basketball teams are shared. And again, those coaches get together and make up that practice schedule. And I think that's real important. I'm a real firm believer in developing a sense of family within your athletic programs. Our off-season coaches attend in-season coaches' games. They run clocks. They supervise the locker rooms. They do all kinds of things to help each other out. A few years ago, we started this program that was Adopt a Sport. And what that meant was, in one particular instance, our boys water polo team adopted our girls field hockey team, and they would go out to each other's games, and then they'd run off to practice. They wouldn't stay at the whole game, but it developed that sense of unity and that sense of family that made it important that everybody wanted to support each other. It wasn't a matter of one program, again, was overseeing over all the others. So I think it's real important that you develop that within your coaching staff as well, whether that's birthday cards, whether that's every fall, with the exception of this fall, I host a coaches party at my house where we can have adult beverages and we can have a good time and we can laugh and we can giggle, and it just brings everybody together. And when you do that and everyone's invested, then everybody's going to care more, give more, and be supportive of one another, which is real key for me. And then the last one of those big 5 is character. No, back one, Ron. There you go. We all know the 6 pillars and of the character program, which is built in, as well as the code of ethics for our section in our state. As an athletic director, you need to embrace those, and you also need to set the tone and the expectations for your staff. It's made very clear at the very beginning in all of our coaches meeting that I expect us to be coaches of character. I expect my coaches to do the right thing. I expect my coaches to treat their athletes with respect that they deserve. I think one of my key words is, in order to get respect, you have to give respect. Now, we're not perfect. We do make mistakes, but when we make those mistakes, we're accountable for them. We admit them. We take appropriate actions, and we move forward. It's a learning, it's a growing, it's a teachable moment, for lack of a better word. A couple of sayings right there that have always resonated with me. What's popular is not always right, and what's right is not always popular. And I guarantee you that you're going to make decisions that your coaches are not going to like, your athletes might not like, maybe even your parents won't like. But if it's the right decision and it's based in good, sound principles, then don't be afraid to make that decision, and don't be afraid to do what you know is the right thing to do within the framework of the education-based athletics and the principles of character. And then that last one down there, what you permit, you promote. And you might not overtly promote it, but it's going to be very obvious to people who see it, who observe it, community members, perhaps even people who don't even have a connection with your school. But if your athletes or your coaches are out there acting inappropriately, in essence, you're permitting and you're promoting. And so you need to always kind of keep that in the back of your mind, or at least for me, it's something that I use that saying a lot with my coaches. Okay, Ron, last one. Just some 5 final takeaways for you. Number 1, develop a true love for what you do and a caring attitude for the people you impact. You have a tremendous, tremendous impact on your coaches. They're going to follow you. They're going to listen to you as long as you are fair, you're honest, and you treat them with the respect they deserve. I'm assuming most all of you have walked in their shoes at one time or another. For me personally, I think it's very important that an athletic director has been a coach at some point in time, and so you know what they're going. I emphasize constantly to my coaches that their ultimate purpose is to instruct and inspire, not to win championships. Now, we're fortunate to be relatively successful here at RB, but I will hearken back to my most current football coach, and his first 2 years, he went 2-18. And it was brutal, it was tough, but during that time, I did not have one parent complaint about what that program was doing, because he was instructing and he was inspiring, and he wasn't winning, but his team was doing the right things. As athletic directors, we need to keep learning and understand that change can be good. I'm not sure the change period we're in right now is 100% good, but we're here nonetheless. Whenever you feel overworked, and this is probably the best piece of advice that I could give you, when you're feeling overworked and stressed, you need to take time for yourself. You need to step back, you need to spend time with your family, and you need to recharge your batteries, because if you don't, this job will either drive you to becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict or somebody who just doesn't want anything to do with it. And I know you're all good people. I know you have good things to offer to your athletes. So you need to make sure you take time for yourself. And then that last one, just remember, you can work hard and smart at the same time. You don't have to put in 20-hour days. So again, if any of you ever want to reach out to me, feel free to email me, to call me. I had the CIF office on speed dial for the first 2 years I was doing this. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to those people that maybe have a little more experience, or at least maybe have the answers that you're looking for. Todd, Joe, thank you. I appreciate you letting me do this. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Peggy, very much. And for those of you that are new athletic administrators, those of you that are experienced athletic administrators will know that message is spot on. And that is just great information from one of our most veteran experienced athletic directors. Peggy, thank you so much for taking the time to share. That was great.
You are welcome.
We are very lucky to have another one of our most established and experienced athletic directors going to do the second part of our presentation today. And that's building a successful culture in your athletic program. He comes from one of the most successful athletic programs in our section. And again, we're very lucky to have him presenting today, and that's Mr. Damon Chase. athletic director and grade level principal from Helix High School. So Damon, come on board here, and thank you for taking the time today, Damon, to share with us all.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody taking the time to be here. And some of you clearly didn't get the message on new AD, new administrator, but that's partly why you're so successful as you continue to go to these trainings. And I took a page of notes on what Peggy presented, and valuable information. And you know, I could probably just say that's enough and that's it, and you guys would all be good for now. But maybe you could pick up a couple things from what Joe and Todd asked me to speak about. So go ahead, Ron. So many of you have heard of, and if you haven't, Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman is the book. There actually is a football coaches 4-part series starting tonight. I believe Mr. Schneep called this the most valuable professional development for coaches, athletic administrators, and I truly believe that. It's something that, as we go through here, if you have questions, feel free. This isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all. None of this is, and I think you have to take that and keep that in mind, that what works at RB and what works at Helix aren't the same things. And you have to take bits and pieces of this and work with your community and your stakeholders. But the message of this, it's really hard to argue with. And it really comes down to finding out what is the purpose of education-based athletics at your school. And I'll give you a little background. We've had successful programs, very successful programs, win state championships, and very interestingly, coaches weren't happy, parents weren't happy, kids weren't happy, teachers and staff weren't happy with things. And I think it'd been brewing for a while in a couple of these programs. And it really hit that how can you be at the pinnacle of really for those of us in public education to win a state championship, and people are pissed off at each other. People aren't happy. And so this training kind of came along and things clicked to me in terms of we've got to change the culture of what we're doing, and we have to change it pretty quickly. And for me, it really came out to this. The statistics say, anywhere at the highest opportunity, 3% in certain sports will go on to play at the next level. So I got to thinking, are we really about the 3%, or even in some cases 0.8% in some sports that are going to go play at the next level? Or are we really about the 97% of kids that their final high school athletic experience will be it for them? They're not moving on. They're not playing anywhere else. So let's make it a great 4 years of a high school experience versus, hey, we're going to get all these kids to go to college and play sports, when the reality is that's not the reality. So our process was we took the book and we did a book study. And quite honestly, we bought books for everyone. We did a couple happy hours at the local establishments, and people were super receptive. And so if you go through this process, if you've been through the process, it really is to find out why you're doing this. And you come up with a couple things. And so you come up with a personal transformational purpose statement. And then you come up, what we did was we came up with a collective transformational purpose statement. And you can see it on there. I'll just hit kind of parts of it. But what we did is we did kind of what we, educators typically do is you go through this process and you come up with keywords, and we put them, this isn't the Damon Chase collective statement. This is our coaches, and our coaches formulated this. And actually it was a great process, I think, for everyone. But we took kind of our key points, our power for learning, which we tied to our school mission and vision, integrity, accountability, a strong work ethic. We'll maintain high expectations and uphold our rich traditions while providing student athletes with transferable life skills through a relentless pursuit of success. And again, that was an athletic department, coaches driven. And honestly, we've tweaked it a couple times, inserted a word here, inserted a word there. It's a dynamic document, but it's hard to argue with this. And I'll talk a little bit about how we promoted this. But this thing really hit us in March, right? And everything of what we do, and as goofy as our world and society is, no one cares, quite honestly, what's happening in biology or algebra, but they do care what's going on in the field, the pool, the court, etc. And we're not going to change that, I don't think. But it really, when we don't have that, and so the question that we pose, and I'm really proud of the work that our coaches did in terms of in a pandemic, still trying to finish a year with some, at that point we had some semblance that there was going to be a season. It didn't happen, obviously, but how are we going to still connect kids to school? Kids were adrift just like the rest of us. And so what we came up with was, in the absence of a scoreboard, what is your program about? What is the purpose of our high school athletics? And we haven't had a scoreboard, but what is our purpose in terms of our connection with kids, and what our role is in that education-based athletics process? Go ahead, Ron. So it does become this idea of transformational versus transactional. And, when people reflect on those two definitions of, are they transforming people, or are they just simply getting result? It provided some pretty good discussion, some pretty good reflection, some introspection by some folks. And, our goal obviously is to be transformational. We're not all perfect. There are times when we are transactional, and it's, where do you spend most of your time? And we want that to be in that transformational side. So, we talk a lot, and Joe mentioned, 70% of our coaches are off-campus people. And, it comes down to, the buck stops with whomever's in charge, who's doing that hiring. And yeah, sometimes the pools aren't very deep and they're not very big, but we're trying to find the best people that are going to represent our school and our programs. And, it really does come down to, I've done 2 interviews with just really these 4 questions. Other than tell us a little bit about yourself, this whole process comes down to these 4 questions. Why do you coach? Why do you coach the way you do? What does it feel like to be coached by you? And how do you define success? And I can honestly tell you, other than tell me a little bit about yourself and your qualifications to be a coach at Helix, and then the last question we give is, is there anything that we missed that you'd like to tell us? I mean, it's literally, we've done 2 interviews with a 6-question interview process. And if people are answering these honestly, you get pretty much to the core of what people are about, and if they're in education-based athletics for the right reasons. So again, can't say enough about that process. And if I know that there'll be some of those trainings offered in our section, but I know they're going right now for football coaches specifically. Go ahead, Ron. So again, it does, really come down to a few things. And part of this is I did this, and then Peggy did hers. And again, there's going to be some overlap here. We try and worry about what we're doing at Helix, and not what other schools have, what other schools are doing. There's enough to worry about on our own campuses instead of worrying about what everyone else is doing. And so our philosophy really is to try and improve the things that need to be improved on our campus, and we're going to worry about us, and we're going to take care of those things. And yeah, there's people doing 7-on-7 right now. We firmly believe that that's not, according to county and state guidelines, 7-on-7 is not okay. And, as much as our coaches want to do it because everyone else is doing it, we're not going to do that. And I think that's where you have to get your focuses on you, and not to worry about what others are doing, what others are thinking. If you're focusing, that old saying that, the grass is always greener. Well, if you're watering your own grass, it's going to be pretty green too. So we try and worry a lot about what's going on our campus and how we can improve things. And I think that is, part of our philosophy is it's dynamic, and how can we be better? What can we do to be better? And let's do it, not because someone else is doing it, because it works for us. Next slide, Ron. Peggy talked a lot about communication. That was her first thing. One of the things that we did was communicate our purpose and vision with our admin team. We have an all-staff meeting twice a month. It was once a month when we were in person. Our coaches presented not only their individual personal collective statements, our personal transformational statement, but we presented our collective, and people were like, damn, they're actually doing something in athletics instead of rolling out the balls and playing and those things. And so that it made that connection to what, our school mission and vision is. Peggy talked about being visible. I think the other part is respond promptly. Sometimes you do get those arrows from parents, people that don't like what you're doing. And, quite honestly, in the few years that I've been doing this, a lot of it is they're concerned about one person, and that's their kid. And if we're taking the philosophy that we're concerned about all, it's hard to argue that from a parent perspective that, well, they are actually looking out for the best interest of all kids. Next one. This is, I guess, a little bit soapbox for me. We're in this together with CIF. We may not always agree with decisions are made, but we're all playing under the same rules, hopefully. And it's our job on our own campuses to uphold those rules in the spirit of rules. And don't be afraid to tell someone this doesn't meet a hardship. This isn't going to fly. And, I think people appreciate that you're honest with them. They don't like it, maybe necessarily in the short term, but we're all in this together in terms of, our same education-based athletics. And, the people at CIF are good people, always have been, and they've got a difficult job, and there's certainly lots of things that we could head off on our own campus before they get to them. I think the last thing is, there's a ton of resources out there. And one of the first things, Jim Arnaiz, if you've been around, you've heard that name. Jim Arnaiz heard that I was the athletic trainer for 9 years, and he heard that I was interested possibly in getting out of that and getting into being the athletic director. And literally the next day, I had a title of assistant athletic director. And so there was some arm twisting to do that. But he said, you've got to get involved. You got to get involved in your conference. Get your coaches involved to be coaches reps in the conference level, at the CIF level. Get involved in the CSADA. I mean, Dave Smola, has a ton of experience running the CSADA as president. Tons of resources. We all know about the NFHS in terms of the courses that they offer. The NIAAA does a great job in terms of just some professional development for athletic administrators. You could be at the first level a registered athletic administrator, and then take a test, and you could be the certified athletic administrator. And then you can go all the way to the certified master athletic administrator. And so tons of professional resources. And, there's been the great opportunity from this pandemic is then there's been webinars created and lots of things developed from, all over the country that's readily available. And I can just tell you that, whether you're in Iowa, you're in Maine, people are dealing with the exact same thing that we're dealing with. And there's comfort in that. And I think we'd be crazy not to listen and see and learn from the people that have gone before us. And, there's going to be great lessons to what's going on in football in, Utah, Arizona, across the country. And, that's happening right now. And I think there's great lessons to learn from good and bad, right? And how we can get better and be prepared for hopefully seasons that come up. So like Peggy said, I'm more than happy to help you answer any questions, be a resource. Chase at helixcharter.net is my email. I'm pretty accessible and happy to help with anything that you need. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great job, Damon. Thank you again for your words tonight. It's a great reminder to me that we only stop learning when we choose to, or when we think that we have the answers to all the problems. And I think we all know, as long as you've been in leadership, that's not the case, that we need to learn. It's also a reminder in listening to Damon and Peggy tonight that great programs don't happen organically. They don't just happen. They really need to take great leaders, and they need to take a plan. And you need to be able to put that together and take those steps in motion to get to where you want to be. And it's not going to happen overnight. We all know that Rome wasn't built in a day, that it takes time, that there's going to take some missteps. And that's one of the things as you go through is learn from your missteps. And what you see before you here is one of my missteps as a young athletic administrator. When I took over a program, I wish I would have gone back and developed a yearly plan so that I knew a calendar as it went through everything that was going to happen in that year that we needed to address. Instead, I kind of did it, month by month as I went along. And what I found myself is I was behind everything, where instead of building a plan, I should have been in front of it. And this was a saying that was on the locker room walls of both my high school and college of failing to prepare is preparing to fail by Benjamin Franklin. I think they'd actually taken out Benjamin Franklin and put in George Allen because they were both big George Allen fans. But it was just a reminder, are we really preparing to be successful? And when I look at the times that I've taken my missteps, I didn't spend enough time planning. I didn't have enough time in that to really prepare for the success that I was hoping that we were going to have. And a couple other reminders before I pass it on to Joe here is, and it came up in both Damon and Peggy's, really about personnel issues and who you hire. Hiring, I was always told as a principal, is one of the most important things you will ever do. It's the same in athletics. When you look at coaches, when you look at who you're hiring to represent your program. As you go through, it's a really of your program of who are taking the leadership roles. So make sure that you remember those hiring decisions are extremely important. And I know this really touched on a part of what Damon was talking about, is that culture doesn't wait. If you sit back and allow things to happen in your program that you do not agree with, that are not part of the plan and what the mission and vision you want for your program, they need to be addressed. And you need to continue to address them on a regular basis, because it goes also to what Peggy talked about. What you end up promoting it if you don't take care of it. And that's the thing that people see from the outside, that you're not addressing the problems. So always remember, culture doesn't wait. There's also a statement that I know from John Hattie in education, that culture eats pedagogy for breakfast. The culture you set for your campus and for your athletic program is so important, because it'll take you through some of those missteps and it'll help you learn from that, and your coaches will learn and they'll have that open environment. So, and the last part for me is, don't hesitate to admit when you're wrong. You're going to make mistakes along the way, and I know I've made a lot of them, but if you own them, you have a chance to really learn from them. And from those mistakes, you can realize that really developing that partnership with your site team, with your district leadership, and with your section leadership, and realize that we're always here ready to assist you in any way we can. And I'm going to transition this over to Commissioner Joe Hines now, who's going to talk.
Todd, can I just interject one more thing before
Sure.
Joe wraps everything up? One of the things that when I have my coaches in-service meetings, I always challenge them at the end with this question, and that's for them to ask themselves, am I adding value to the lives of those that I coach? And I think that really ties in with what Damon was talking about, and some really great stuff. But, are they adding value? And I don't mean value in terms of, can they throw a down and out pass and hit their receiver? Can they make a 3-point shot? I mean all the other, intangibles that we want our kids to get from sports.
Completely agree, Peggy, and thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Joe?
Thank you, Todd. And I'm going to go to the last couple slides here. I appreciate you all. It's been some great information today. I want to thank again Damon and Peggy for their time, and our whole staff. I'm going to go through just the last couple slides here, and this is really with regards to the principals. And I know we do have some new principals on this on meeting, and I appreciate them taking the time to do that. But understanding, as the principal, you are in charge of the oversight of all aspects of your school's athletic program. I will tell you just something that always resonated with me was our former CIF commissioner, who was retired for about 30 seconds in his time. But I will say his message, which rang loud and clear, is, athletics is on the front porch of every single school. And you absolutely, as the principal, don't want to find that out when it comes to a negative situation happening on your campus. Obviously, development of your athletic culture has a direct impact on the overall culture of your school. And it's important that you guys have a vision and share that vision with all the key stakeholders in your program. The principal, you're the person that sets that. You set that tone for the overall athletic culture of your school. And with regards to that, you have some important roles. You're in charge of, ultimately you may have people working under you, whether it's your athletic director, your assistant principal in charge of athletics, but ultimately it's your name on all those things, whether it's the residential eligibility, academic eligibility, transfer eligibility, amateur status. All those things are components of eligibility. But at the end of the day, as the principal, you need to ensure those things are handled properly, investigated properly, and all your folks and all your whole school is in compliance with not only CIF rules, but any league rules or conference rules that you may have. It's a very important role. And with that comes the importance of your team. And you heard that message loud and clear earlier, is everyone being on the same page. If as a principal, you don't have your athletic director, or you don't have your athletic administrator, if you don't have them as either part of your admin team, you sure as heck better be meeting weekly to know what's going on in my programs. You know, having situational awareness of what's coming up, what little undercurrents may be happening with parent bases or in specific programs. Just having your thumb on the pulse of that athletic program is the key as the principal. So that's important to know, and that comes specifically through communication with your key people. Your athletic director that you have and your athletic administrator, they are key folks. They are key parts of the success of your athletic program, and you need to be in constant communication with them. Obviously, you're in charge and in control of the financial matters within your school. That's whether it's working with your associated student body, financial secretary. Those people know what's going on with your budgets, understand it, have clear processes in place, and always on top of the financial matters within your athletic programs. Supervision of your athletic contests, very important. Some conferences have specific rules with regards to what are the minimum standards for supervision at any of your contests, but you may have those if you're an individual private or charter school, you may have your own. But knowing those rules, making sure all your contests are supervised, making sure there's a clear process if things happen or issues come up or you have ejections in your program, making sure you understand to handle all those specific situations with regards to supervision, not only at your home site, but ensuring if supervision is required at an away site, you'll always have someone there to obviously represent your school and handle the situations that may come up within your parents. Obviously, accountability is huge. Students, coaches, and parents, all your key stakeholders, that comes from you being involved in either preseason parent meetings before each season with all your parents, setting the expectation and culture of your program, what you expect, lines of communication, how to handle complaints, what's appropriate for complaints, what's not appropriate for complaints if parents have concerns, who to talk to, the hierarchy of how those things should be clearly articulated to your parents at the beginning of each season. And that should be common language that's shared throughout your program, whether it's coming from your athletic director, whether it's coming from your assistant principal in charge of athletics, or it's specifically coming from your coaches. That needs to be, again, common language that shares. But again, as the principal, you set that expectation of how those things happen. And again, you're consistent in the application of those things across the board when they come up. And then last but not least, obviously, the health and safety of your students. That could come with the conditions of your athletic fields. You heard earlier someone talk about, I think it was Todd that talked about not being surprised by something, especially if there's an injury, a potential concussion of a student. A student's injured and taken to the hospital a game. Those are all things that it has to be in the lines of communication. If something happens, it should be you as a principal knowing, so the next day you don't get a surprise from an upset parent that no one checked in on the student, nothing happened, no phone call went home. Those things, again, that starts with that expectation. You start with the culture and expectations and lines of communication within your athletic program. Last slide there, Ron. Closing thoughts. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time. Again, hopefully this series and our opportunity to spend a little time with you is going to help you and guiding you in building your athletic program. Both Damon and Peggy's messages are awesome. When you talk about, number one, know your reason why and kind of the foundational pieces of transformational coaching and transformational leadership that happens in that Inside Out initiative. If you haven't been part of that series, I've sent this information out to the conference presidents. They have different steps. They have some cohorts that are just beginning and just starting. Others for experienced ADs who have been through the program. Absolutely, it's one of the best things that CIF and Jerry has brought forward to us, and I took advantage of it, and it's awesome. It is that Inside Out coaching initiative, and the focus is knowing your reason why. Why do you put in all these hours? Why do you spend those times and countless hours away from your family? And as Peggy alluded to, potentially just wear yourself down building that athletic program or that culture at your school. Know your reason why. Have an understanding of why you do that and what's your shared vision that you want to establish and share with your athletic program. Todd hit it right on the head. Own your own mistakes and use them as learning opportunities. Just like a coach, and the old coach and all of us knows that sometimes the best life lessons and learning lessons we have are in negative situations. Absolutely, don't try to pass that buck. Take advantage of those things, build on them, and ensure, hey, you're learning from them and you're moving forward and obviously using it to your benefit, not to your detriment. Set high expectations for all. Hold everyone accountable to meet those expectations. Again, that starts with the principal. That's your school, that's your athletic program. But again, that should be some common language and common expectations, starting at the top, all the way down from your athletic administration, down to your coaches, down to your players, and ultimately everyone in your athletic community and all your stakeholders should share that vision with you and those expectations. Most importantly, don't hesitate to reach out for assistance when needed. I think the biggest thing that was always my pet peeve was those people, well, I don't really want to ask because I'm afraid they might, not think I know that much, or I won't get the answer that I want to hear. No one in this room is going to give every single person the answer they want to hear. But absolutely, it's better to get up front, be informed, than ask for forgiveness after the fact when something goes negative. Especially if you're an athletic administrator and that's how your coaches operate, that's never going to come to a positive end if that's how your folks work. Again, take advantage, ask for help. Mr. Schneep can tell you I'm always contacting him. I'm talking to him and asking him questions again. Even in all my different roles as athletic administrators and now, absolutely. I mean, all of us, there's stuff for all of us to learn, and there's always someone out there that can provide positive assistance or positive guidance for you, because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit all of you and your athletic programs. And again, our profession is in need of great leaders. And like I mentioned in the beginning, the turnover is huge in this position. The burnout's huge, not just for athletic administrators, but for coaches, everyone in this athletics program and foundation. It's challenged now more so than ever. But again, from us at the CIF's office, and I know to all of you in your athletic programs, we want to be here to support you. We truly appreciate all the time and effort that you put into what you're doing, because ultimately at the end of the day, this little thing called education-based athletics, we all believe in it, and we all know the lifelong lessons it plays for all of our kids. That's why we put in the time. That's why we're all doing this. So I can't thank you enough for, again, taking the time to be on today. Last slide, Ron, if you would. Again, guys, thank you for joining us. We look forward to working with all of you. Moving forward, all of us are hoping that we're still in line for December 12th. Please know any updates we get on anything, you will have them as soon as we get them. I know time's clicking away here towards December 12th, and we're all anxiously awaiting on new guidance, both just athletically, health and safety-wise, lots of things to come. But again, we're all keeping our fingers crossed that December 12th date is going to be reality, and we're going to get back to some semblance of normalcy, not just with our academic piece, but with our athletic world as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We'll be sending something out to all of you with regards to some office hours that we're going to be having as two Mondays a month. It'll be the second and fourth Monday of each month, where Todd and I will be on for an hour to provide updates, give you guys an opportunity virtually to come on, ask any specific questions you have. It's almost like office hours, but a chance for us to be visible, and obviously be a resource for you guys. As I mentioned earlier, that's kind of one of the positives this whole online world has provided us is some relief from having to meet in person and just giving us a better avenue of communication. I'd like to again thank all of our CIF staff, Stacy Candia, Ron Marquez, Vanessa Myers, Assistant Commissioner Todd Casson, thank you, and all of our presenters, Peggy Bros, Damon Chase, all of you for taking the time to come on today. We're about 16 minutes longer than we wanted to be, but hopefully you're benefiting from this series here. And again, we want to continue to be a resource for all of you.